I'm excited to start this Thursday morning with you. Good morning. My name is Olive Monica Najima, and this is Good Morning Uganda. I am with the team, Chantal Olive Akandinda, Jerome Paul Sonko, and of course the man himself, Chirabo Robert Nyonyintono. Now, as Good Morning Uganda, we are always happy to begin the day with you, to usher you into this new Thursday, and of course see how you can get through the morning and later on into the day. And of course, being Thursday, we like to throw back. Now, tomorrow is 1st December, and it is the International AIDS Day. Yesterday, we had a conversation here on Good Morning Uganda with the head of prevention at the Uganda AIDS Commission, and he was telling us about this day. And of course, the theme this year is Let Communities Lead. What does that mean? It means that let's involve the communities in the fight against HIV infection. We have a global goal as Uganda and other countries to end the HIV problem or situation as an epidemic by 2030. And our president is very pivotal in speaking about this. And of course, a lot of work has been done to ensure that we can achieve this by 2030. As we speak, Uganda is at 52,000 infections this year. So we need to bring that even down, but we need to throw back to the times when HIV was a scourge in our country. In the 90s and late 80s, we were at an infection rate of 18%. And as we speak, we are at an infection rate of 5.1. Now, we still need to bring that number down, but from what we used to experience at 18%, where we are today, I believe that we've done a commendable job as a country. A lot needs to be done in the areas of combating infection, but when it comes to things like treatment, we are doing so well, and I believe that the team will agree with me. First of all, let me check on them and see how they are doing. Good morning, Chantal.
Good morning, Olive. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm very well. Very excited that it's a Thursday and we're closing into the weekend. I'm really, I've been looking forward to these moments, and here we are. So yeah, I'm doing very well. And good morning, Ugandans. Hoping that you are also doing well this morning. It's a Thursday, and the last day of November. We are getting into the real Christmas season. Yes. So cool.
When you mentioned the last day of November, it actually took me back to the fact that November has 30 days.
Oh yes,
you know,
there was, remember that song?
Yeah, I do remember the song where we used to, I don't know, it was in primary, where we would say 30 days of November, September, what?
April, June and November.
Yeah, so it was a nice song that would remind us of the days of the month. And well, we have finally ushered ourselves into the month of December, I should say. We're left with only hours. And good morning to our dear Ugandans and all our viewers wherever you are. Well, I don't know how most of them have actually passed through this one. As for me, it has actually come up with mixed reactions here and there. It has been a great month, not so great, with some issues also.
Okay. Well, the way you ended that it shows that your month really didn't have highlights. But I would like us, like I said earlier, as we are throwing back to the days when, to the advancement we have actually had in the fight against HIV/AIDS. Today being the last day of November, and tomorrow being 1st December, and also the day we remember when the first case of HIV/AIDS was reported in Rakai in 1980. To where we are today. What feelings does that evoke in you, Chantal?
Well, when you look at how far we've come, it's a very good stretch, if I may say, especially because back then very many people were lost in that whole, can I call it a wave that really swept people off, because today you're diagnosed and they're telling you HIV positive, and a few months down the road you're dropping dead.
Yeah. But
right now someone can live 20, 30, 40, 50 years with the virus as long as they religiously take their medicine, and they survive. And of course we've seen a transition as well from people looking a certain way and being identified by that look. People would be seen if you're losing weight, you're losing hair, your skin is you know, is not looking as fair or fairer, then definitely the first thing would be that person must be sick of HIV. Right now you can't even tell who is sick and who isn't. That is why they advocate for checking, because I mean we've seen growth in these areas and people are now able to take better care of themselves. So we have done a wonderful job, and I'm looking forward to even more advancements coming our way.
That's true. Good morning, Robert.
A lovely morning to you, team, and of course our viewers. Well, November has been a month, but I'll begin with the HIV/AIDS rare government of Uganda. And in particular, I want to thank His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, because in the late 80s, after having the first case registered at Kasensero landing site, we found that our president went out to the world. And by then he was criticized by some people. How do you go out and talk about HIV/AIDS very rampant in Uganda? But what he did was a major breakthrough, because the international community woke up and said, well, there's this problem. Now from then, we've seen strides made first in the area of treatment. I want to say there has been so much that government has done with development partners to avail medication, avail drugs. Civil society organizations, I want to commend them. They have done so much in the fight against stigma, stigmatizing people with HIV/AIDS. But also, the fear we are having when you talk about 52?
Yes, 52,000 infections
this year. That means 52,000 people contracted HIV/AIDS in 2023.
2022, 2023.
2023 now.
Yes.
What does this mean? That if we do not reduce the rate at which we are getting new infections, we may fail to sustain those that are on treatment. The cost will be very heavy.
That's true.
And if the cost is heavy, remember, a big portion of money that buys these drugs in the HIV project is not Uganda money. It is donor money. That is why when we had issues, if you remember, His Excellency, one of the things he highlighted, he was like, how come for this habit or evil you want to render this portion, these million plus people, to die? So we must not take this light. We must end new infections, because the success we are getting may go to the dogs.
That's true.
If we can't put this on medication. But also importantly, I want to thank also our government for new initiatives in prevention. Yesterday, the Daily Monitor, I was there on New Vision, where government approved a vaginal ring.
Yes.
You know what this ring helps? They are given to the most vulnerable people. It's inserted there, so even when they have intercourse with a person who is sick, they don't contract HIV/AIDS for a period of a month. There is also an injectable for 2 months.
The injectable is about to be given a green light by
Yes,
the National Drug Authority, but according to the Uganda AIDS Commission, if it is given the green light, it will be a game changer in the fight against infection.
And they're even available. Then the other could be condoms. But final on this, I want to urge all Ugandans. We are talking about 52, but the number in my, I feel, is much more, because we don't have even 70% of our population knowing their status. So give yourself a Christmas gift.
Know your status.
Go and know your status. If you're positive.
The first, it's normally most of the organizations open up for Ugandans to go and test and check. You know, there is one other concern when you mentioned that why most Ugandans don't know about their status, is the fact that some are even worried in the same. Of the same, rather.
They are worried about knowing what they think is positive.
So some of them actually fear that they may have contracted the disease, or others are scared of, you know, you'll just be there. Exactly. So they have their insecurities here and there. Because one thing I do remember, just recently when I did an HIV test, my border guy, I did pose a question to my border guy, and I asked him, when was the last time you tested? He told me, hey man, you're a real man. He was actually telling me he had last tested like 2 years ago, and he was forced to go to that test by his colleagues, who were telling him, we mind about you and the way you're living your life, please go and test.
Well, testing is the way to go, and like Sonko said, you cannot spend 2 years if you're sexually active without knowing your status. So go and know your status. And today, unlike yesterday, things are better. You can buy the testing kits and check yourself at home. If you're afraid to find out for on your own when you're at home, then go to a medical facility, because there they'll give you counseling services. But you see, you may fear to go test, thinking that because you think you've been reckless, you must be sick, only to find out that you are not. So go and find out. And the good news is that when you find out that you're positive, it is no longer a death sentence. There is medicine, you can start on it, and like Chantal said, you can live 20, 30, 40 years. You can have children, you can be okay, because medics have told us that when you take your medicine religiously, you will actually not even pass on the disease to someone else. So go and know your status. And of course, I'm challenging everyone on my team to know their status by tomorrow. Well, let's get into the news, and Trevor Robert will be taking us into the local news.
Well, we'll begin with President Yoweri Museveni regarding the Moscow discussion. Now, in a virtual discussion at the 9th International Forum, Prima Voc readings, President Museveni underscored the importance of open markets for fostering global economic development. He stressed that market access is not zero-sum game, but rather a mutual beneficial agreement that with advantages for all trading nations. The virtual discussion, moderated by Iran Abromova, Director of the Institute of Africa Studies at the Russia Academy of Science, brought together prominent figures, including former South Africa President Thabo Mbeki, Russia Deputy Foreign Minister Mthatsdel Bongodanov, and Ibrahim Kamel.
Now, speaking matters health, the Prime Minister, Robina Nabanja, has flagged off over 116 new ambulances to boost emergency medical services in various constituencies across the country. Speaking at the flag-off ceremony, Nabanja appealed to beneficiaries to use the ambulances for the right cause and serve in need appropriately to save lives. The flag-off event was held at the National Archives building in Kampala.
And relatedly, the Prime Minister, Robina Nabanja, officially launched the distribution of over 97,000 iron sheets to Karamoja. The beneficiaries include reformed warriors and other vulnerable individuals in the region. Flagging off the iron sheets at Namamve stores last evening, the Prime Minister emphasized the need for careful management by the distributors to prevent any mismanagement.
Now, lighting the torch into alleged corruption in the media, the Minister for Information, Communication, Technology and National Guidance, Chris Baryomonsi, has announced that government is in discussions with the National Association of Broadcasters regarding journalists' remuneration. Baryomonsi was in a meeting with media house proprietors and editors organized by the Inspectorate of Government, addressing strategies to combat the challenge of corruption in the media. He attributed corruption to the poor remuneration of journalists. Well, that story ends our local news stories for this morning. Chantal Olive will be taking us through the international news.
Well, we'll still continue to give you updates on what is happening in Israel and how far this has gone. So negotiations are ongoing for an extension of the truce deal between Israel and Hamas, possibly involving an extended pause in the fighting. However, with the current truce set to expire at 7 a.m. local time, no agreement has yet been announced. Also, 16 captives were freed from Gaza on Wednesday. Qatar said that 10 of the released captives were part of the existing truce deal, while 4 Thai citizens and 2 Russian Israelis were freed separate from that deal. 30 Palestinian women and children were freed from Israel prisons in the early hours today. Now, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Tel Aviv on his 3rd trip to the region since October 7th. Blinken is expected to also visit the occupied West Bank. Now, more than 15,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since October 7th. Israel, the official death toll still stands at 1,200. Also, former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger has died at the age of 100. He served as America's top diplomat and national security advisor during the Nixon and Ford administrations. In a statement, Kissinger Associates, a political consulting firm he founded, said the German-born former diplomat died at his home in Connecticut. During his decade-long career, Mr. Kissinger played a pivotal and sometimes controversial role in the U.S. foreign policy. The statement from Kissinger Associates did not give a cause of death. Born in January 1923, Kissinger first came to the U.S. in 1938 when his family fled Nazi Germany. He became a U.S. citizen in 1943 and went on to serve the 3 years in the U.S. Army and later in the Counterintelligence Corps. After earning bachelor's, master's, and PhD degrees, he taught international relations at Harvard University. Now, coming back to Africa, Kenya's parliament has banned the wearing of a suit named after the late Zambian president, Kenneth Kaunda, within the building. I think all of us remember the Kaunda suit. Speaker of Parliament Moses Wetangula said Kaunda suits, as well as traditional African clothes, were not welcome. Kenyan President William Ruto often wears them on official occasions. This has made the Kaunda suit, a safari jacket with the matching trousers, popular with the political class. The suit is named after the late Zambian president, who loved wearing them. It is often short-sleeved and is worn without a tie. Mr. Ruto has worn the suit sometimes with a short upturned collar. On Tuesday, Mr. Wetangula said his decision to ban the suit was due to emerging fashion trends that threatened the establishment of parliamentary dress code. He noted that a proper dress code for men means a coat, a collar, a tie, long-sleeved shirt, long trousers, socks, shoes, or service uniform. Now, matters climate. Countries are poised to seal a hard-fought argument on Thursday for the creation of an international fund to help communities rebuild from climate-driven calamities, giving the UN climate talks a bit of a win on their opening day. The hosts of the summit, known as COP28, released a draft agreement on Wednesday that would accept wholesale and recommendations a handful of countries adopted earlier this month. It includes a provision demanded by the United States that says all contributions to the fund are voluntary. 5 diplomats from European and African nations who were granted anonymity to speak to Politico about the negotiations said it was likely the draft deal would be adopted at the opening of the summit in Dubai. Still to be decided how much money the fund should contain and where the cash should come from. At this point, the draft invites developed countries to lead in providing financial resources to start up the fund. None yet provided firm pledges. That is it for climate news and also what is happening in different parts of the world.
Well, thank you, Chantal Olive, for that news report. Now, Jerome Paul Sonko, please highlight for us what we might find in the local dailies this morning.
And well, in our dailies or the press review, the New Vision with the headline, Fund for Exporters increased 1.8 trillion Ugandan shillings earmarked for businesses. Read about that in today's New Vision. Furthermore, the Life Ministry, First Lady Roots for Family Institution. Then in the series, how journalists found out he was HIV positive. And in the opinion, G20 presidency, India celebrates humanity and future. More of that is in the New Vision. Now, Magical Christmas, win a free Christmas holiday for those who are highly anticipating for the season. Also, the Daily Monitor that is still in Uganda. Homes, hotels choke on rising charcoal prices. The unbearable heat, according to the hotel owners. Now, 70-year-old gives birth to twins. Read about that remarkable story in the Daily Monitor today. Another court clears sale of Muslim property. As DM today, my mother's death really sealed our bond. As car review, Mercedes G55 is built off-road. Now also, government bans public ambulances from carrying dead bodies. As envoy upbeat about South Sudan ESC leadership. And in the car review, Mercedes G55 is built for off-road. That is what is in the Daily Monitor today. Crossing the borders to Kenya now, the Daily Nation, 2 CSS salt over cooking oil scam. A scandal where the KNTC bosses and senior managers of a local bank have been questioned by the DCI. Now, 500,000 Kenyans hit by flooding as motorists urged to exercise caution. The Top Hustler Fund borrowers to be feted at today's first anniversary. Now, Raira's verdict. Read about the political tension in Kenya as well with the Daily Nation. Now, lastly, in our press review this morning, the Citizen newspaper that is off to Tanzania. Why Tanga cement deal looks done and dusted. Now, Ericsson forges digital future path, embracing connectivity and inclusion. There is also an interesting report on how to make informed decisions through data. Now, government pushes for greater women's role in the African Continental Free Trade Area. As 800,000 people screened, 30,000 have also been found to have cancer that is in Tanzania. Well, and that is it for what we've been having for you in our press review. So you can check it out and read more about these particular headlines.
And as you check out what is in the local dailies, we will be taking a short break. We will leave you with a beautiful song as we do that. And when we come back, we will be speaking about matters children and how parents can help combat the scourge that is child marriages. Stay tuned.
Don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true. Oh,
Topic of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
In the heart of Uganda, a financial revolution is happening. We were once left out, saving the old-fashioned way, with an unexpected saving spot, keeping it too close for comfort. But now, we found a better way to save and manage money. Download the Wendy app from Google Play or App Store or dial *229#. With Wendy, your money is safe and you can earn interest daily. Visit your Google Play or App Store or dial *229# to register. Wendy Wanawoli.
Over 1,000 children with disabilities in Uganda every 5 years have not had access to adequate education. And this has been basically due to lack of assistive devices to enable them get reasonable accommodation in schools. Mokisa Humanity and Inclusion Foundation is leading a campaign to fundraise for assistive devices for 500 children with disabilities to get in school in the year 2024. Join us to fundraise for braille machines, slates and styluses, white cane, braille paper, hearing aids, wheelchairs, audiobooks, book recorders, JAWS software, among others on 10th December at Hotel Africana. Register your child with a disability by calling us on 0740 55 04 95 or 0783 91 11 14. Donations from well-wishers are also welcome. Entrance is 100,000, 150,000, 200,000 and a table goes for 1 million shillings. This is sponsored by UBC, Mokisa Inclusive Schools, Mokisa Nursery Primary School, Herona Hospital, Msafiri Tours and Molia Foundation.
Mukoke Fish Farmers Association tuli balunzi ba byananda ebyebika ebisatu omuli Miracap, tilapia oba engege ni catfish twete male. Group eno twatandika twali abantu basatu nga tulingirira obwetaavu obwebyenanda obwivwa eno okubona nti tufuna okasente akava mu maadi agali gatambula butambule nga gatubita ku wanu ng'ekirabo. Twatandika ni fish pond ndala mu mwaka gw'2018. Twebaza fisheries officer ni district ya Bugiri babanga batulagirira kusani fish farm ebwikwe ni side day ndeyo twabanga tusobola okufuna kwetusako obugege obwasooka era mu mwaka ogwali 2020 awo basobola okubanga batuwaayo ebyenanda emitwalo dali ena okuva mu operation werese creation. Era okuba yongereza ku emmere yatuweebwa okuva Uganda Poultry Breeders. Twasobola okuba nga tusoloza akasente akawerera obukayire nga 42. Twasobola okuba nga investinga oba okubona nti twongerezaako ku bimu ku bintu bye tukola gano. Twebaza gavumenti yaife okuba nga buli saawa efaayo okuba nga efe eri Abannayuganda.
Amazing morning with us here on Good Morning Uganda. Thank you so much for joining us. We do this every morning from 6:30 to 9 a.m. Monday to Friday. I'm Olive Monica Najuma, and I am with Chantal Olive Akandinda and Jerome Paul Sonko. Like I earlier said, and if you're just joining us, we are going to delve into the issue of child marriages. Now, parents have been asked to play a very key role in combating child marriages. Now, we want to look at why we have child marriages in this day and age. Why are parents still selling off, if I may use that word, their children into early marriage? Now, when we speak about child marriage, what do we mean? Child marriage refers to marriage of a person that is under the legal age of 18. In Uganda, we know that an adult is 18 plus. So if someone is younger than that, even if they're 17, and you choose to marry them off, that is a child marriage, and it is illegal as according to the government of Uganda. So why do we have families marrying off their daughters at early ages? Because studies show that girls are married off at as early as 12 in some societies, others 15 to around 17. Why is this prevalent in our communities? Is this a cultural matter? Is this because of poverty? These are questions we want to questions for which we need to find answers. And of course, we need to look at the impact of child marriages on the society, on the lives of these girls, and obviously find solutions as to how we can combat child marriages in our society. So I'll go back to my team. Jerome Paul, yes. First of all, take us through some of the reasons why we still have child marriages. And I want us to first of all look into, because I've seen one of the reasons, not all of them, is culture. Okay, culture. Are we still fighting or grappling with child marriages because of some people's culture beliefs?
Yes, that is one of the other strong opinions in there, or one of the clear causes of early child marriages. Even in modernized families, you get to realize that some are being influenced by their cultures in relation to making sure that their children get into marriage spaces. And one of the reasons backing the cultural aspect here is that some cultures have a belief that it is better to marry off your girl child when she still has her virginity at that level, or what community does refer to as the purity in it, before she engages in any kind of sexual affairs. Because to many cultures, or to some communities, it is a disgrace to some families once your child is actually, once your girl child is actually found not to be virgin. So you get to a point that some parents feel once the child has reached a certain age where they have realized they are mature enough to handle marriage. So, and when you look at this, most of these cultures, the age bracket is around 12, 13, 14, 15 to 16 years. So it's really still in the teenage where most of these particular girl children are driven into marriage. But then there's also the element of education. Education how? When you look at some reports that are coming up, for example, last year in Budaka, there were half of the pupils did not return to school. And one of the causes of the same was because of early marriages. And when you mention pupils, here in this context we are talking about primary children really. And the age bracket of this particular one may be around 11 to 15 years. That is for this particular girls that didn't return to school. So why am I bringing the education part is the fact that this education part is actually driven by one of the major causes, which is poverty. In most cases, parents fail to keep, some parents I should say, fail to keep their children into school. Or not only their parents, but also some of the children fail to keep themselves in school. How? Because once a parent lays the foundation of paying the school fees or preparing you for the school, and also making sure that they are offering you school requirements, you do realize that it's upon the student to make sure that they focus. Now, in most scenarios, especially in upcountry areas, not only even in upcountry, by the way, when you look at some of the cases as well that have led to early marriages, is the fact that some of the girls are actually driven or lured by individuals or strangers that are quite older than them at a given time, who tend to promise them, you know, fantasies, or I should say earthly things, material things, and then they end up, you know, dropping out of school, and this may be due to early pregnancies as well. And in the long run, once a child fails to stay in school, if the parent doesn't have, you know, any other advice to give this child, some of them end up pushing them into marriages. But then there's also the issue to do with poverty. In Uganda today, when you look at the fact that the majority of the Ugandans are living below the poverty line, or when you look at the fact that we are earning for survival in most of the areas, you get to realize that at times parents who have girl children end up using them as a source of investment of a sort.
Income.
Or income, exactly. So they are ready to cash in, if at all, their in-laws are coming in with enough money, or those who are interested in the girl child actually coming in with money. And in, you know, to make matters worse, really, at times you realize that this girl child is actually getting married to a man who is either married already or having children elsewhere, or already having multiple women, simply because he has money. Then the parents actually, you know, folded to give in.
Wow, these are really dark times for the girl child. So Chantal, what do you think could be the possible impacts of having girls married off quite young?
The first impact you would look at would be the quality of youth that we are raising, or that we have, because if we're talking about child marriages, we're talking about this young lady getting married at the age of 14, 16, and this is a child who is not even very well versed with what they are supposed to be doing. So you're going to look at the quality of youth that we're going to that we have could be affected by that. I mean, their school dropouts, that is one. You're going to have an issue with their mindsets, because someone who channels and goes into marriage, in most cases, their concentration right now is not going to be on balancing work and anything else. It's going to be literally about family, because that's what they know. That's what they've been moved into. So those are some of the effects. But also, you're going to look at a reduction in or a decline in the quality of families that we have. And we all do know that I mean, for us to build a nation, and you know, for us to build a nation, it all starts from our families. So look at the families right now. Look at all, I don't want to use the word kavuyo, which were the chaos that is in families lately. Partly it could be blamed on the fact that some of these girls got married at a particular age, but also when you look at the quality of say, for example, if you are looking for a particular number of say A students, or if you went to Nebi, for example, let me give an example, or went to Kamuli, for example, and you wanted to pick a certain number of girls to take them back to school, you may not be able to get that, because they've already channeled and gone into that. So their mindset has already been, you know, tainted in a way. I don't want to use the word brainwashed.
No, it is. Because when you also look at the causes, there is something to do with gender discrimination. Some societies have put it out there that the girl child was only created for marriage.
For marriage, yes.
And in most of the situations here, when you say brain washed or something. Some of these particular communities have already encrypted this in the minds of these young girls, that once you reach a certain age, we're marrying you off, and once you reach a stage where the parent feels you're productive enough. If a man spots you and wants to come pick you up, they will actually come and pick you up. But also, when you cross over to the health impacts, especially on these young girls, you're going to realize that, one, these girls are subject to consequences, especially of pregnancy, like fistula, because they're still young, their bodies are still developing. So you're going to find that these kids are likely to get fistula, for example. But also look at mental health. This is a child, I'm using the word child because they're actually a child. They've gone into marriage and they literally don't know what to do. Even if you sat them down and gave them a manual, they're going to experience these things differently. So at the end of the day, their mental health is also at stake, if I may put it like that. And of course, we're also going to see an increase in domestic violence because this young lady at a particular point is going to have clashes. A woman who has gone to school, for example, in most cases, she now knows better how to handle a man, because she has even literature that she goes through and reads.
She knows her rights. She
knows her rights, yes, but also she understands on a different level, whether we agree or disagree. When someone has had the test of school, there is a difference in the way their attitude towards life and the things that they do. So in this case, you're going to realize that there's going to be an increase in domestic violence, gender-based violence, because at the end of the day, you're going to be finding families conflicting, because probably the man is looking down on the woman thinking, she didn't go to school, what is she saying to me? That is one. Two, no one feels like I am being put down, and they resort to all the weird ways of protecting themselves from some of these people. And in most cases, they get married to men who are really older than them.
Deprive them of their future, you're 13, really. Even if the man is 25, he's still way older than you.
And there are stages of childhood that you even miss. During
of course, you're deprived of a childhood and a future.
Right. So if you're looking at the effects, you're going to be looking at the quality of the youth that we're going to be producing, and even the kids that are coming after that. You're going to be looking at the mental health implication. You're going to be looking at the physical health implication on these girls, especially because now if you're going to childbearing, it's a whole different conversation altogether.
But also, to add to what you've just said, poverty is a key contributing factor for child marriages. But also it is a result of child marriages. Yes. Because girls married off early are definitely going to be poor because they cannot make financial decisions for themselves. True. They've not gone, like Chantal said, they've not gone far with education. So it means that even their mind cannot broaden to a certain degree because they have been kept at a certain
also
level.
Running the family, not every mind can actually run the family.
No, you're 13, you've started a marriage.
It becomes very difficult for you. Even for the boy child who actually gets into the same, still faces issues really with marriages. I'm thinking, now imagine a girl child who's
I'm thinking if 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds and above are still failing in their marriages, struggling, what about a 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old
who's still naive of certain things, really?
Many things, basically. Life has not yet started. And also, we need to also keep in mind that child marriage is a gross violation of human rights. Because now you're depriving this girl of her right to education, her life to a childhood, her life to basically have certain basic needs of life, because you've taken all this away. Now you've turned a baby or a child into a parent. So a child raising another child. Then of course we will have many other effects, like Chantal put them, like health issues that can actually be fatal. Because imagine a 13-year-old carrying a baby, or even being engaged sexually pretty much every day. The body is not ready. I have seen stories in the media where grown women are saying, I can't handle.
And now
But now-
imagine a
Imagine a
13-year-old,
12.
So now that we know the implications of child marriages, what do you think has led us here when it comes to the laws against child marriage? Do we have strong laws that can help us combat this? And of course, are they being well implemented, or everything is still on paper?
Well, also, when you look at the idea of enforced laws, for example here, when you look at the Uganda Constitution 1995, and the Penal Code set the legal age of marriage or engagement in sexual acts at the age of 18. We all are aware that at 18 years, someone...
That's when you're viewed as an adult.
As an adult. And sadly, communities that also know, because now we are no longer living in the African kind of traditional setting.
Society.
So we are living in a modern world where laws are we are governed by the laws that are stipulated by the central government. Now, one of those is this particular one, that anyone who is supposed to get into the marriage space, you should be an adult. And legally, being an adult means you're 18 years old. Now, when you mention, are the laws in place? The laws are in place. Are they being enforced?
How is the enforcement?
The enforcement is where the worry is. Now, when you look at most of the marriages that take place, in most of the communities, you do realize that those that belong to the local council, especially the chairman rather, they are some of the people who are actually invited in some of these local weddings.
Yes.
You know, and it is very worrying to the fact that, remember, a chairman is supposed to be a representative of the central government, because he is under now the local government in terms of the hierarchy. But when you look at the fact that once these as these weddings are actually taking place, you will realize that even these chairmen or chairwomen are some of the people who have actually been invited, and they never put an end to this, which undermines the enforcement of the law right from the top, if I'm to put it in that way. Because as the chairperson, or let's say someone who is actually representing, or you are the council of the area, if you have no ear on the ground in relation to what is happening in your communities, then you are failing at it. Because right now we are raising, if we keep on raising such families of having females who are not yet ready to get into the marriage space, we are actually damaging the future that is yet to come. Because this is how we are waking up every day with people having past traumas simply because of what they experienced in their childhood. Some of them were actually, you know, born by teenage mothers who did not have a lot of time to actually take care of them. So when you look at some of these among the existing laws as well, there is also the protection and fundamental human rights and freedom for all Ugandan citizens with specific provisions. And when you also look at the Article 31, still in the Constitution of 1995, provides for the right to marriage and family formation. But again, however much it does provide for the right and family formation, the element of age is one that is highly highlighted as well. So when you look at the enforcement, there is something lacking in relation to the enforcement, because the enforcement not only focuses on those in the local government or even the government itself, but also the parents of the two parties. One, the boy child who is actually getting, who is coming to pick the teenager for a wife, as well as the family where this young girl is actually coming from. So the enforcement is actually something that we are failing to do as a country, and we really need to have this as a collective effort to make sure that these laws are enforced.
Okay, now speaking about efforts, in which other ways can we ensure that child marriages are curbed in our country?
It's a collective effort, in my own opinion, where the parents definitely have to be involved, and those are the very first ones on whom focus should be put, because they're the ones that lead, that actually consent that these kids go ahead and get married. So first we need to put effort into educating the parents that still believe in child marriages. So mass sensitization on the effects especially of child marriages should be put in place. 2, look at now the reasons as to why these parents are going ahead to marry off their children. If it's poverty, then pretty much we may not be able to do too much about it, but if someone's mindset has changed, then they would see otherwise. Also advocating
but why do you say we may not have anything to do about poverty? Can't parents be empowered to change their livelihood so that they don't have to resort to selling their children?
The most that you can do is change this person's attitude and mindset towards the concept of the child marriages. Then after that, the truth is, Olive, whether we like it or not, even in countries that we admire, there are poor people. So even if that person is poor, but they are there and their mindset is different, they're not going to make the same mistakes as they made. But there'll be a certain level of patience extended. Yes. There'll be more options probably that they can consider to keep their kids in school, or even at least let them grow to a particular age when they are able to get married.
Yeah, but still going back to poverty. You see, if you say you're going to change someone's mindset towards child marriage, but this person is still barely living and they still have a child at home whom they think if I marry them off I'll get money. My question is, should it, as you sensitize parents against child marriages, shouldn't you also labor to empower them out of poverty so that they do not marry off their children?
The empowerment is there, because when we also look at the government programs that are put in place, if I'm to mention, for example, the current one under the NDP3, there's the parish development model for per se. As of today, why we have these programs in place as the country is to ensure that Ugandans get into what I could say productive kind of situations for themselves that you can easily earn by making sure that you actively engage in various activities, economic activities. And when you look at some of the communities that are involved in child marriages, or where child marriages are quite, the rates are too high, these are communities that are also that are also active in agriculture. And when you look at some of the key reports in here, many NGOs have actually been able to empower most of these communities, actively reminding them or teaching them how to engage in value addition per se, how you can be into agriculture and earn off agriculture, as a way to show people that we can, you as a family can as well make money for your own self and be able to survive off it, rather than only doing the consumption part. But then also empowering as such. When it comes to education, like you did mention, education can be a very key solution for such situations, because the more the girl child is actually exposed, then she understands her rights. She can as well go back home and at least try, to relate to situations and remind the parents why they need to be engaging in other activities that can uphold.
How about changing culture norms? Because we know that in some societies, people are still engaging in child marriages because of cultural beliefs, because they believe a girl of this age is ripe for marriage. We have seen video clips on social media where people from some cultures are saying, for us this is normal. It's like for the conversations about maybe someone, okay, let me not go there, but culture norms, what can we do to change people's mindsets as far as culture norms are concerned?
The worry though, when it comes to culture, is we are dealing with the conflicting loyalty, if that is the better word to use, between modernity and the African traditional society in regards to culture. There are people who are rigid in regards to cultural norms, and they are not willing to adopt to the current level, or let's say the current generation we are living in. And it's sad, really, because even those who are fully educated have also embraced some of these cultures. And believe it or not, I'm not saying we should bend these cultures, but there are cultures that need some changes too. Because if we have been educated to a level of knowing that if a child gets into marriage at an early age, this and this is what is likely to happen to them while they're growing up, then why would you go on to push for the same? Because some of these particular cultures, it's a hard pill to take, but it's something we need to really focus on.
If you're to assess properly, the biggest reason is ignorance. The biggest reason. See, if you're to go back to the times these kids were getting married and it was seemingly okay because it was a cultural norm, the effects were still there, especially the health implications. They were still there. But they could not attach those health implications to the fact that this kid got married at an age when they shouldn't, when their body was still developing, when they could not handle whatever comes with getting married. Do you understand? So after that, now this is the point where the mass sensitization comes in. These different cultural leaders and societies need to be informed that the reason as to why your daughter died while giving birth was because she was young and not able to carry that child full term, or the body could not take the pain and then it led to death. I'm giving an example. So when that information is put out there, you realize that it's not written in stone that this person should get married at the age of 14. You realize that instead of losing a life, there will be considerations, and this person will be let to grow to a particular point when they are able to, you know, to get married at a particular age. So in this case, it's the sensitization that is going to save the day. Sensitization of communities, of parents, and these girls themselves, because some of them will opt for marriage. She'll wake up, yes, she'll wake up in the morning. Because
of the conditions at home.
Thank you. She woke up in the morning, there is a man she met on the way from the well or wherever she was coming from town, for example, and the next thing, she says, I'm getting married, or she says, I'm bringing someone home. So if we can deal with the attitudes and the mindsets of these communities that advocate for child marriages, then we would have hit a lot of birds with one stone, because going forward, you would now have introduced room for conversation, room for us to weigh options on what has more consequences or more dire consequences.
I think we also need to have the boy child or the male in these conversations, because like you've given an example of these particular girls who are actually lured by these men, you know, men in society who would actually try to get these women into sexual kind of situations. You do realize that some of them do it out of pleasure, and they don't even care about anything that is going to happen afterwards. And at the end of it all,
they justify their actions.
Exactly. So at the end of it all, this is where you realize that some actually force these teenagers to abort. These are also serious cases that are coming up. Then all others end up making these young ones drop out of school because of maybe he promised her, let's say if it's a border guy, he promised her a lift every time from school, or if it's a chapati gentleman off the street who is actually giving her free chapatis.
Please note, you are so singling out men like this, but not to add to what you...
Yes, okay. And then also we look at men in cars, because this young girl is actually going to see a man with a car, and he has his life settled. There was once a song that the now turned politician Bobby Wine once sang that if
what you're studying to get is what I've brought you.
So if the rich man has the vehicle, he would say, I even have my car. This 13-year-old girl who's naive about life, 15, 16,
probably she's like coming from poverty, and she's like, this is everything.
And it actually pushes her more to also advise the mother that, you know, this is what we have. This is the deal. This is the real deal.
Now let's look at legal reforms, because we have laws that prohibit child marriage under the age of 18. But last year, I remember when the Marriage and Divorce Bill was presented in Parliament, it said that there are loopholes. For example, the Marriage Act of 1904 allows marriage below the age of 21 years as long as a letter of consent is given by parents and guardians.
So
the
21,
customary, that one says 21.
Yes.
The Customary Marriages Act of 1973 sets the age of consent at 16 years for girls and 18 years for boys. So why are boys getting married at 18? Meanwhile, these are still laws here. So when you go deep to look at the Marriage Act, you're going to find that there are loopholes in there. On the surface, we will hear government saying child marriage is prohibited. But if someone wants to go the legal way, they actually can use this to defend themselves. Also, for the makers of this law, why would you allow boys to get married at 18 and girls at 16? Well, knowing that a girl's body goes through different changes as compared to a boy's body.
No, again, there's some contradiction though, because when you also look at the other provision in 1995, clearly shows that want to engage in the illegal part, to engage in marriage, they have to be they're supposed to be 18 years and above.
Now this is the Customary Marriage Act, and as we know, most of the girls married off are usually married off
It's customary.
Yes.
Not,
So
yes.
when you talk about the reforms that we also need, it is time for us to also understand whether we are going to be rotating our kind of society values around entirely modernity, or the cultures have to be preserved. Because now when you look at it from the customary kind of situation, it's really obvious that these things are happening. But
there are loopholes in the law.
In the law that need to be changed. Because as much as we continue to push for this, there is this element of how ready are these people. We are raising, mature people, or we are raising citizens that have past traumas. And most of these traumas are coming in from such families where you've been raised from a family where your mother
was a child
at the time, and they did know a lot, and
yes.
you're nursing wounds of the toxicity she had because of the frustration.
So it goes on and on and on. Well, we have a few views coming through, and this one is from Okirol Bernard from Kachira, Ginger. He says child marriages are promoted by the government because they fail to regulate fee structures in both government and private schools. In private schools, school fees are hiked to the extent of parents failing to keep their children in school, leading to high rate of school dropout, leading to early marriages. In Kumi district, the cheapest UPE school is of 50,000. I'm sure RDC and district education officers are aware of that. So what he's trying to say is that some families cannot even afford the 50,000 shillings. Now, I know that President Museveni has been really key in saying that these schools there shouldn't be any charges levied on UPE and USE schools. But the school administrators have also now come out and said we cannot afford to not levy any charges on the parents, because we have to provide meals for the children, because most parents cannot afford to provide the meals for the children, and sometimes we need more scholastic materials. So that's why we levy the 50,000 shillings. And this one says, good morning, Uganda. Olive, Chantal and Sonko. Child marriage is a global issue. It is fueled by gender inequality, poverty, social norms and insecurity, and has devastating consequences all over the world. Here, you can discover more about the extent and impacts of child marriage and the progress we've made towards ending it. He says, furthermore, child marriage is rooted in gender inequality and the belief that girls and women are inferior to boys and men. It is made worse by poverty, lack of education, harmful social norms and practices, and insecurity. Its drivers vary between communities and it looks different across Uganda, not only Uganda but also globally. This is Tugume Musa, streaming live from Rugonjo, Kamwenge district. Thank you so much, Musa. This one says, good morning, team. Material desire is the major cause of child marriages. It starts with parents when they look at their daughter as an asset. They are willing to push her marriage regardless of her tender age, since they are given dowry. Secondly, even religious leaders have presided over weddings of men marrying young girls, since the couple covers all such requirements. Lastly, nowadays people go for early marriages deliberately due to attraction to materials, and this is common in both genders, whereby even young boys marry old women for money. It goes back to all the parties, that is children, parents and religious leaders, to value marriage and not to be blinded by earthly desires. This is Cricket Derek Gagamel from Makinde, Luafu. Thank you so much for your views. We will be ending here this segment of our newsreel, but we can continue having this discussion because we need to end child marriages. I'm Olive Monica Nejima.
Of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Over 1,000 children with disabilities in Uganda every 5 years have not had access to adequate education. And this has been basically due to lack of assistive devices to enable them get reasonable accommodation in schools. Mokisa Humanity and Inclusion Foundation is leading a campaign to fundraise for assistive devices for 500 children with disabilities to get in school in the year 2024. Join us to fundraise for braille machines, slates and styluses, white cane, braille paper, hearing aids, wheelchairs, audiobooks, book recorders, JAWS software, among others, on 10th December at Hotel Africana. Register your child with a disability by calling us on 0740 55 04 95 or 0783 91 11 14. Donations from well-wishers are also welcome. Entrance is 100,000, 150,000, 200,000 and a table goes for 1 million shillings. This is sponsored by UBC, Mokisa Inclusive Schools, Mokisa Nasaran Primary School, Herona Hospital, Msafiri Tours and Malia Foundation.
In the heart of Uganda, a financial revolution is happening. We were once left out, saving the old-fashioned way, with an unexpected saving spot, keeping it too close for comfort. But now, we found a better way to save and manage money. Download the Wendy app from Google Play or App Store or dial star 229 hash. With Wendy, your money is safe and you can earn interest daily. Visit your Google Play or App Store or dial star 229 hash to register. Wendy Wanawoli.
We are alive again, and it's time for us to check in and see what is making headlines from the world of business. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko, and the GMU Business Update does start now. Now, President Yoweri Museveni yesterday assured local and foreign investors of government's commitment in tackling bottlenecks and red tapes that impede investment in the country. And of course, that is actually also in relation to the fact that business growth in Uganda has been affected by quite a number of things. And the president was assuring both the local and foreign investors that the government will surely support them and help them out and bail them off their losses. This was at the inaugural presidential investor conference that was at the Colonial Ceremonial Ground. It was organized by the Uganda Investment Authority, and it did attract quite a number of investors, both local and international investors, plus officials from the Ministry of from the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Of course, it did come with public backlash on social media in regards to their thoughts of this particular one, but the event is sought to bring over 2,000 investors and other key stakeholders under one roof to discuss pertinent issues aimed at boosting investment and doing business in Uganda. So pretty much as we look into how Uganda's growth trajectory is in relation to the growth of our economy, these are steps in the rightful direction, if you are to ask me in relation to that. So the president did assure investors, but also he did put a situation in relation to investors creating leakages amongst themselves in order to strengthen business in Uganda, or looking at partnerships and the power of the same, with the fact that lately partnerships continuously prove to be a very key solution to growth of businesses, especially within the private sector. Now also, as we continue to have more details in regards to business news this morning, let's delve deeper into understanding what next is also happening. Now, this time around, let's talk matters agriculture, as government responds to sugar millers' petition of a new entrance within the industry. Now, when you look at the upcoming in here, the Deputy Attorney General Jackson Kafuzi has responded to a petition by the Uganda Sugar Manufacturers Association to bar the licensing of sugar millers, or the new sugar millers. And of course, he was appearing before the Committee on Tourism, Trade and Industry on Tuesday, and he did say that the Ministry of Trade is a better place to respond to the legality of these new licenses in order to come out and clarify why they are giving out new licenses to new players. Now, the Sugar Board was expected to regulate the sugar industry through licensing of millers, but also it is in the line of the ministry as well. When you look at some of the provisions, for example, Clause 7 of the Act states that one of the mandates of the Council is to review applications for sugar licensing, establishment and expansion of sugar protection. Now, there are also other concerns of sugarcane farmers that clearly need to be looked upon, but the most issue here is those in the sugar milling business feel it is rightful better for the government to at least come in and regulate in the way they are licensing or giving out new licenses to new players, because it does seem like it will be become more competitive, but however in the long run affect the prices of sugar, all those within the production. Now also, what's worth giving a mention, I should say, is the fact that there is a huge concern for the charcoal dealers in relation to the prices sharply rising. So the concern is highly related to the fact that there are lots of situations happening within the same, but you can ideally understand that even on ground today, there is a slight rise or an increase in relation to the price of charcoal in the country. Now, lastly, from our business perspective this morning, we look at the forex market to see how the various currencies were trading by close of business Wednesday evening. As we were heading into the market now, the US dollar was buying at 3,801.33 and selling at 3,811.33. By midday, it was buying at 3,809.17, then selling with 3,819.17. And then it did close. Buying was at 3,811, while selling was at 3,821. And the Great Britain pound was buying at 4,844.92 shillings, while selling at 4,857.63 shillings. The euros, on the other hand, was buying at 4,192.10, while selling at 4,203.10. Looking deeply down to the Kenyan shilling, it was buying at 24.90 shillings, while selling at 24.96 shillings. The Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.52 shillings, while selling at 1.52 shillings as well. And then the South African rand was buying at 204.95 shillings, while selling at 205.49 shillings. So that is it if you're heading into the forex exchange, or let's say forex market, to exchange some currencies for yourself this Thursday morning. Now, that is it for the world of business till Monday, as we'll be giving you more details of the same on our various socials here on UBC. But that aside, it is now time for the traffic updates.
A beautiful morning. Thank you so much for keeping it with us all the way from 6:30 in the morning to around this time. Right now, it is time for the traffic updates. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and we are going to be looking at the areas of Ntinda so that we know how you can maneuver and move from one place to another to your final destination this morning. Now, as you can see, we are looking, this map is showing you different areas in Ntinda, but we are going to take a close look at Kigobe Road, as you can see over there, and see how you can maneuver and move to Old Chira Road. Now, look at taking a close look at Kigobe Road. It is bringing in some bit of traffic coming in from Matters West Side, and of course joining this main road. When we look at the areas of Total Energies Chiwatule, we will see that there is traffic jam still coming in, and of course going all the way to the areas of Ntinda around the traffic lights. As you can see there is traffic jam that is coming through, and of course there is traffic coming through from Bukoto Ntinda Road, joining the main Ntinda Road. Now, as actually we look around the areas of Chisasi Ntinda Road, we see that there is traffic jam that has built up from Chisasi all the way coming to Ntinda, and of course it now drops into the intersection at Bukoto Ntinda Road, and of course we see some more traffic jam that is crossing through the intersection onto Chisasi Ntinda Road. Now, going ahead, we see that now there are smooth and green zones on this section of the road, as now there is a smooth flow of traffic in this area. So if this is where you're headed to, we are looking at Ntinda Chisasi Road, and it looks good. So if you're going there, you will not encounter much traffic on this section of the road. Now, going back to Ntinda Road, you see that there is a traffic jam that is starting to build up a little bit, and it is of course coming in from Ntinda 2 Road, joining the main Ntinda Road. But still going with Ntinda Road, you will realize that there is smooth flow of traffic in this section. But up ahead, you're going to find a little bit of an orange zone, but it is not for a big distance. You should be able to move smoothly. But as we approach the Ntinda Kamu Mocha taxi stage, you're going to realize that there is a bit of an orange zone over there, indicative of traffic that is starting to develop. Now, looking still at some of the roads that are surrounding the Ntinda Road, if you look at Kampala-Jinja Highway, you see that there is some bit of traffic coming through. And of course, I see that there is a traffic jam coming through from Nakawa-Jinja Road. And it looks quite intense this morning. It is coming in through from roads like Chinawataka, joining the Nakawa-Jinja Road. Now, of course, going ahead back to the Kampala-Jinja Highway from Nakawa area, you see that there is a smooth flow of traffic. There is a bit of traffic that is coming through from Katalima Road, but as we go ahead, we realize that for the biggest part, there is a green zone indicating a smooth flow of traffic, but there is a section that has a red zone over there as Lugogo C1 joins the main Kampala-Jinja Highway. And of course, for those coming in from New Port Bell Road, there is just a bit of traffic as you approach Nakawa Business Park, but as you move ahead, there is smooth flow of traffic until you reach the traffic lights. Now, going ahead on Kampala-Jinja Highway, like I said, there is a red zone over there. And of course, you might lose a few minutes over there. And there is traffic coming through from Shoprite Road, joining the main Kampala-Jinja Highway. Now, moving ahead, we see that there is a bit of traffic that is coming in through from the Lugogo bypass, but it is not intense. So move ahead again, looking at the main Kampala-Jinja Highway. Overall, it is smooth this morning. There is smooth flow of traffic coming in from Acha Road, still joining the main Kampala-Jinja Highway. It is looking okay, but as you approach the roundabout, for those coming from in from the areas of Stretcher Road, Lugogo bypass, Chireka, you will find that you're going to encounter traffic around the Jinja Road roundabout, and it's a bit intense. You might spend some time in this section, especially if you're coming from Jinja Road side. Now, if you're coming from Old Port Bell Road, you too may encounter some bit of traffic when you approach the roundabout at Jinja Road. And for those going to Wampeo Avenue, there is a bit of traffic jam that side too. I see that orange zone going for a bit of time along Wampeo Avenue. Now, coming back to the main road, for those that are still using Jinja Road to go through town, maybe Kampala Road, from the roundabout to the section that has access road, which takes you also to Yusufule Road, there is intense traffic over here on both sides of the road for those coming to town and for those going the side of Jinja Road. So prepare yourself to be delayed a bit in this section. But still moving ahead along Jinja Road, I see that it is still not yet smooth, because as you move ahead up to that section that has Station Approach Road where Victoria University is, you're going to still see that you're going to be moving in traffic jam all from this section, from the roundabout up to this section. But when you cross over from this section and move ahead, there is smooth flow of traffic. A bit of orange zones and red zones here and there, but not intense for you to worry about them. But now I want us to have a look at Duster Street as it feeds into the main Kampala Road. Now, looking at Duster Street, I see a huge red zone on this section, and it is coming through from Market Square Road. All of Market Square Road looks red this morning, which is indicating traffic jam, and it feeds into Duster Street, which Duster Street then comes and feeds into Kampala Road. And as you can see, for you going the side of town still still you will find a traffic jam here up until you meet the Square 2 road, which is also bringing in some bit of traffic into Kampala Road. Now for those coming in, joining Kampala Road from Barton Street, as you can see there is intense traffic coming in from Barton Street. It is a deep red zone indicative of intense traffic jam that will cost you some time on this section of the road. And as it joins Kampala Road, I see orange zones and red zones, meaning the middle of town this morning is actually caught up in traffic jam, but up ahead you're going to encounter a little bit of smooth flow of traffic, and of course you're going to again encounter on Kampala Road red zones. And this traffic is coming through from Chagwe Road, joining Kampala Road, and of course there is more traffic coming through from the surrounding Bombo Road as it joins Kampala Road. So if that's where you're going, this is our traffic advisement for the morning. You may need to think of alternative routes, but the good news is if you still continue with Bombo Road from Kampala Road, actually you're going to find a smooth flow of traffic. I don't see any traffic coming through from William Street this morning, so you should be in position to move smoothly. And of course there is no traffic coming through from Nachivubo Road. I'm only seeing green zones in this section, and the biggest part of Bombo Road is actually a green zone, which means there is no traffic jam yet in this section. So if these are the areas you're moving to or the routes you are planning to use, this is our traffic update. Hope it has been helpful. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Good morning, Uganda agenda is up next.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
In the heart of Uganda, a financial revolution is happening. We were once left out, saving the old-fashioned way, with an unexpected saving spot, keeping it too close for comfort. But now, we found a better way to save and manage money. Download the Wendy app from Google Play or App Store or dial star 229 hash. With Wendy, your money is safe and you can earn interest daily. Visit your Google Play or App Store or dial star 229 hash to register. Wendy Wanawoli.
Over 1,000 children with disabilities in Uganda every 5 years have not had access to adequate education. And this has been basically due to lack of assistive devices to enable them get reasonable accommodation in schools. Mokisa Humanity and Inclusion Foundation is leading a campaign to fundraise for assistive devices for 500 children with disabilities to get in school in the year 2024. Join us to fundraise for braille machines, slates and styluses, white cane, braille paper, hearing aids, wheelchairs, audiobooks, book recorders, JAWS software, among others on 10th December at Hotel Africana. Register your child with a disability by calling us on 0740 55 04 95 or 0783 91 11 14. Donations from well-wishers are also welcome. Entrance is 100,000, 150,000, 200,000 and a table goes for 1 million shillings. This is sponsored by UBC, Mokisa Inclusive Schools, Mokisa Nursery and Primary School, Herona Hospital, Msafiri Tours and Molia Foundation.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
As Gulu District Farm Association, in 2 districts of Omoro and Gulu, 14 Sao and Tirantwe, farmers benefited from this project. Whereby if you go to that link of Gulu District Farmers, so you have all the details of the number of farmers who have been benefiting from this project. One thing Gulu District Farmers also benefited from this project called Prelno, it has strengthened the extension system of the DFA, or the Gulu District Farmers Association, whereby there were capacity building of each of the staff, the one in Gulu, the one in Omoro. Before this farmer group, I also benefited from this project, whereby, particularly for me, the other achievement I made, because in fact, I think all in all, I'm being, I could say, the luckiest to me, particularly in my achievement, because I finished my university in 2020. Immediately I came for Prelno. So I understood every structure, what's all about in Prelno, whereby I had to achieve. I constructed also a house home, I also had a bull, whereby they hope my museum from home for plowing. So that's briefly what I can say. Thank you so much.
My name is Atube Richard, a member of a group called Kanyope, located in Bungatira sub-county. This group started in 2008, but the Prelnol project started supporting us in 2009. The project has offered us training on farming, and the training we got has helped us immensely. We used to farm in a traditional way, planting a variety of crops. But when the team from Prelnor approached us, they asked us to choose particular seeds to grow which can yield very well in our area. We chose groundnuts and rice, which we are growing. With this kind of farming, the project also taught us how to sell as a group after finding a market. The support from the project has been so good to us.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
A lovely morning to you, and thank you so much for being part of Good Morning Uganda. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda, and I'm Robert Chirabo Nyonyitono. It is really a very good weather because when I look outside, it's not really rained that heavy, at least a bit of drizzle, and it doesn't really hinder you from movement or getting to that appointment where you're supposed to be at the right time. Well, it is exactly 8 this morning, and I'm very into the spirit of discussing issues regarding disability. Now Sunday, and this show runs Monday to Friday, so Sunday is International Day of Persons with Disabilities. Now this is celebrated globally, that's why it's an international day. Here in Uganda, we'll be in Mbarara celebrating this. Well, events will start ranging all this week, but Saturday there will be a symposium, then Sunday will be the actual day to join the rest of the world to celebrate this. Now, this year's theme for Uganda is role of innovation in disability inclusion. The role of innovation in disability inclusion. How do we ensure that the various innovations that we come up with include, factor in persons living with a disability? Just to remind you, if I introduce my guest, that when we look at our population, 12.4% of Ugandans have one form or two or three forms of disability. You may find that one is physically impaired, but also they may not have the sight, they may not be able to hear, or others can't hear, can't speak, or have multiple disabilities. And that is about 5.8 million people in Uganda are living with one form of disability. Now, with a population of about 47 Ugandans, that is still a big percentage, like I earlier said. Now, it's important also to know that disability can knock at your doorstep anytime, either in an accident, or you fall sick, you get a stroke, or any illness that can render you, either you lose your sight, you lose your capacity to hear. So it can knock at your door any step. Not forgetting that a number of us have had relatives, have had friends, have had somebody you know that wasn't born with any form of disability, but along the way picked it up. All those that were born with a disability. Now, this morning I have Segirinya Emmanuel, who is a therapist with Star Ministries Uganda. He's an occupational therapist with Star Ministries Uganda, and we want to look at using occupational therapy to improve lives of persons with disability. Segirinya,
yes, sir.
You're most welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
How have you been? We last had you here, I think, with a group of
yes,
young children
yes,
that were demonstrating some art here and there.
Yes.
How is Star Ministries and what exactly do you do?
So, Stars Ministries Uganda is an organization based in Luzira, Water Village, and here in Stars Ministries Uganda, we deal with people who have disabilities, and we help them to strive to their full potential.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now, when you talk about dealing with persons with disabilities, which age group? Any age group? Do you specialize in children? And when you mention the word they have their full potential, what are you referring to? Because it's a person with disabilities.
Yes. So when we talk about a person reaching their full potential, we may not mean that a person with a disability, for example, if they cannot walk, that their full potential is walking.
Is going to happen.
Yes, their full potential may not be walking. Their full potential may not be going through the education process and being someone we want them to be, but their full potential can be them reaching their maximum level of attainment of the different skills and the different levels that they can attain. Yes, so we work with these people, we assess them, and see, because the people with disabilities present differently, you'll find that a person, they may be having the same disability, for example, autism, autism spectrum disorder. So different people on that spectrum present differently. So we assess this individual person, we look at a person as an individual, we assess them, we see the level of their limitation, we see what they can achieve, then we work around that to see that they can really reach their maximum ability while aiming at promoting their independence. Because what we see with persons with disability is that some of them cannot do the things that other people can do. They are limited in one way or the other. So we come in to see that we promote independence. at whatever costs, such that this person doesn't have to live off another person. They can survive on their own. Yes.
Now, we are talking about the role of occupational therapy in improving the lives of persons living with disabilities. First, help us understand, when we talk about occupational therapy, what entails, what is this?
Yes, thank you very much. Occupational therapy is an allied health profession that works with people with different kinds of disabilities. It can be physical, it can be mental, it can be developmental, it can be chronic, and we use activities of daily living which are therapeutic in nature to give treatment to these people and improve their daily lives, how they can do the different activities of daily living and promote their independence. Yes.
Now, when you talk about things in daily life, are there examples? Because unfortunately I don't have any video with me, but I want you to create that picture in the mind of my viewer this morning. How is it done? Than just saying we use, move away from the technical. Now, we have someone who has a child with a disability, a form of disability, and they are eager now to understand what is occupational therapy. What do you do? Can you paint a picture for that parent?
Okay. So when we look at occupational therapy, the terminology itself, we can also call it activity therapy or activity-based therapy. So here, we are using these activities. We choose a meaningful activity. This activity, first of all, must be meaningful to this client. It must be according to their age, according to their mental capacity. And this activity is clearly assessed by the occupational therapist, and then it is determined to create a desired treatment. For example, I may give an example of a person who has been in a cast. Maybe they had a fracture, then they have been in a cast, and their arm has been maybe limited to this side, in a cast, for example, for maybe a month. So by the time this person gets out of that cast, you realize that the muscles have shortened and they cannot extend their arm fully. So an occupational therapist will come in with an activity that this person can do, and as the person is doing this activity, they are able to stretch out that hand. Unlike the other types of therapies where it is done physically and the person is physically stretched. For occupational therapy, we bring in an activity that will do the stretching. As the person is doing it, it is doing something to their mind. When you go to conditions like, for example, stroke, we realize it comes from the brain, one part of the brain or some parts of the brain being affected. So when we do these meaningful activities, it elicits the brain neurons to begin to multiply, to begin to gang up to do even other better activities. So occupational therapy aims at the physical, the mental, and the psychosocial well-being of the individual using these different activities.
Well, how have Ugandans embraced this? You rightly talked about a person who has been, maybe he had a fracture and he has been that cast for so long. Many would think apply some local herbs, pull, stretch, and that painful nature, maybe hot water and something, you'll get better. Just hold on something and then you feel the pain and crying. Now, this seems a better way of doing things. But how have Ugandans embraced this? And is it readily available? Because most of the therapists I've had either are expensive or it is through an NGO that you can access them.
Yes. So when you look at occupational therapy in Uganda, we see that it is somehow new to the Ugandans. But when we go outside there, it is well known, people know it. But when we come to Uganda, we are still extending our awareness to the public such that they can get to know what is occupational therapy, what do occupational therapists do. So we are trying to create this awareness in the Ugandans. So, but occupational therapy, you have talked of it, of the therapy being unavailable, expensive, and so on. So we really want to request the government to help this profession, because when you look at the rise in disability in Uganda, you've talked of the ranges, the population we have, about 4.5 million people, 5.8 million people having disabilities, and disability is on the rise. Every other day, a child is born with a disability. A person gets a disability maybe as they are walking back home. So disability is one of the things that is very near to each individual in Uganda. But we need the government to really come and help us to really extend these services, to really come up and support professionals who are undertaking this course, to bring down the costs of attaining professionalism in this service, because it's one of the things that is limiting the growth of the service, because the need is there, the need is too much, we are overwhelmed by the need out there. And when you look at places like health center 3s, health center 2s, these services are not there, and these are the people that are working with the people directly on ground. And then when we come to the national referral hospitals, even the slots there for occupational therapy are low. But when you look at the benefits of this service, it is really immense. Yes.
Now, do we have enough professionals? Because you mentioned to ensure that we have more of these people.
Yes.
I put this to you because you're in this. I've had so many people call themselves therapists, professional therapists. How safe is this profession guarded? Because we are talking about health. This person already has a disability, and we want therapy to be performed on them. It is very unfortunate that today the medical fraternity in Uganda, when you move around, you hear many people call themselves doctors, not because they have PhDs, not because they have ever sat in a class of medicine, but and the entire community calls them doctor. And when you look at some services offered, they even talk about therapy. Now, if someone is going to play with my nerves ignorantly, I don't know if they're going to do better or worse. So how are you safeguarding this?
Okay, so how we are safeguarding this? And when it comes to safeguarding, sometimes we cannot follow up to people's homes and see who is giving them the service, which person is attending to them, because the major follow-up is at the district hospitals, the national referral hospitals. We have an association, a body of occupational therapists that is following up, looking at professionalism. How are people receiving professional services out there? But when it comes to the public, people, and when it comes to people with disability, they are really vulnerable. And everyone that gets a chance to see so and so is having a disability. I went somewhere and I saw people doing this and this, moving their muscles, doing this and this. Then they come in to masquerade and do that service because of the gap that they see that is there. So there is a bit of a gap in the professionals, the number of professionals out there. So that's when we get other people who are masquerading in the profession. But we want to tell the public out there that they really need to be vigilant. If a person comes up, because these are people's lives, when a person comes up and they say, they are occupational therapists, you ask them for their licenses. Because a license to practice occupational therapy is given out by the Allied Health Professionals Council. So their licenses, ask those people for the license, ask them for the IDs, what identifies them, ask them for the assessment, because we don't start working with a client before doing assessment. Then we develop the treatment plan. Ask them for those things. Where is the treatment plan that you are following to give me this kind of service? Yes.
Well, my viewer, you can be part of the topic of discussion this morning as we look at using professional therapy in improving the lives of persons living with disabilities. Just remind you, Sunday will be in Bara, where we'll be celebrating International Day of Persons with Disabilities. We have this as a country, about 12.4% of our population. People have one form or the other. To be very accurate, we are looking at statistics putting the number at 5.8 million Ugandans living with one form of disability or more than one form of disability. Now, I have my guest who happens to be a professional therapist working with Star Ministry Uganda, and we want to see how best can this improve the lives of people living with disabilities. Actually, what is professional occupational therapy? How would one get it? And why actually should someone ensure that if they have a form of disability, they can do this? Now, one of the most challenging things I find, and you work with children,
yes,
is the fact that many families, a good number of families who have children with disabilities financially are also not doing very well.
Yes.
Or many of these, the father moved away. I know of a family where the father said, for us, we don't give birth to. And he told the mother, you either leave or I leave you here with your kid. Now, professional therapy being expensive, how is this handled maybe at Star Ministries or any advice for such people? We don't have many of you professionals in government hospitals. How is it possible? What should such people do?
Okay, thank you very much. So when you look at occupational therapy, because you have talked of the service being expensive, being inaccessible, when you look at the families of people with disabilities and the inability to have the money to really source for these services. So I would want to talk about Stars Ministries Uganda. This organization was started up by a lady called Sylvia Kalyevala, and it started out as a church-based kind of foundation, basing on the principles of Christ, basing on the principles of ministry, to really reach these people with the gospel and with the services that they need. So you find that organizations like Stars Ministries Uganda are basing on donations, are basing on the contributions made by different parents. When they come up, they contribute for those services, the little they can. Then donations are sourced for to really achieve these services. But it really now comes back to the government, because when you come to the people down there, sometimes the service doesn't reach to those people down there because they have not created the room for the people. So it remains locked up in the private sector, where a person has to attain this service through private means, through their own money. And sometimes it is not sustainable to the people to really pay out for these services. Take, for example, a person paying maybe a surgeon to do maybe a heart transplant or a heart surgery. So some of those services are expensive, and the government needs now to come in to really subsidize the services by working with these professionals, topping up for these services and bringing them down to the people. Because when these services are not accessible to the people in our communities, it makes them scarce. If we don't have, for example, at the health center 3, health center 2, we don't have an occupational therapist there, we don't have maybe 5 of them there, that means the person will have to really source out for where can I get this service from. And now they are remained with only one option of getting it privately or accessing a center for people with disabilities to get these services.
Well, government coming in there now. I have a message coming in from someone from Gulu University, but you didn't give the number. You said, thank you for the show. I'm live from Gulu University. He just talked of asking for a license and an ID. How will an ordinary man from deep in Amur be able to verify a valid license and an ID and one from NASA? Because most of these guys forge these documents to induce their customers. And one says, thanks for the show. Okay, Emma. Okay, I got the name. He's Emma from Gulu. Thank you so much, Emma, for being part of this show. Now, fighting quack, fighting those that are in the business or in the profession, sorry. But he's wondering, how best then can an ordinary Ugandan ask or verify that this is a genuine one, this is a forged one? To know that I'm actually having a professional working on me, not someone who learned from another and who learned from another, who learned from the actual professional person doing it. That is his concern.
Okay, so one of the things we can do to really help the people out there to see that they really need to have the professional work with them, we really need to empower the people on ground, at the health centers. We need to empower people in the village rehabilitation teams, really need to be empowered. If these teams are empowered, they know that such a person in this village has received a disability, was born with a disability. So it should be the responsibility of these people to source out for people who are licensed to work with these people. Because you look at a person having a disability in a village and they are not known. No one knows about them. The disability teams down there are not aware of the people that are having disabilities in the villages, in the homes, in the communities. But now if these people know the people that have gotten the disabilities, then they can do the follow-ups to see, is this person receiving therapy? Because the person, when they get a disability and they don't receive therapy, even their chances of receiving independency in activities of daily living go on decreasing. So we need these teams down there to work with us, because the work is really great. We cannot do it by ourselves to monitor who is this person, is he licensed, where is his license. But if we have those teams down there at the village level, they can really help us do much.
Well, most of the messages still were on that validating then, but please kindly send us your name and where you are watching from. Well, the other said occupational therapy is good, but very few can afford it. And I think this is what we discussed earlier on.
Yes.
Then I have another message from Okumu, who says, thanks for the show and for such a pertinent topic this morning. But the problem is, okay, it still goes to the same.
Yes.
Most of the messages actually are talking about how this is not easily available and affordable. And yet most of the families with persons with disabilities have financial constraints. And Okay, one is asking, let's just have this one, watching live from Arua City. I'm not understanding what the guest is explaining. How authentic, okay, he's asking how authentic is this? You know, he's wondering, therapy, I think he needs to explain to him that yes, people go and study this, please. Because he's questioning how really.
How authentic is the therapy?
The occupational therapy.
The occupational
I think
therapy.
it's something new from him.
Yes.
To him, and he doesn't really understand. You know, we've had so many people come up with, I don't want to, I may sound like attacking, but I think you've had this, playing around with people's lives. Because of certain things they learn from YouTube, then someone reads, he becomes an expert, he gets airplay, you know, but when you ask, are you really a doctor? Do you understand what you're doing? Did you? So he's running, if occupational therapy is not under that very system.
Okay. So occupational therapy is authentic. The work concerning occupational therapy is readily available. If you go on the internet and you search and you read about occupational therapy worldwide, what does occupational therapy do? Occupational therapy in Uganda, is it there? When you look, you can even go to YouTube and look at those videos, the success stories of people who have undergone occupational therapy, and you really see how it has helped their lives.
Is it a professional course? I think let's get to that. And if so, where is it studied? Does someone get a diploma, certificate? So that's where I think his mind is running to.
Okay. So occupational therapy is a professional course. It's under Allied Health Professional Council. And it is studied in Mulago School of Occupational Therapy. That is where the course is handled. Yes.
Okay. Well, time seems not so much on our side. I must let you go. But before you move out of here, let me just have your final message to Ugandans.
So my final message to Ugandans is to really embrace occupational therapy, is to embrace therapy generally, because we have what we call early intervention. Whenever a person gets a disability, they need early intervention for them to get the best that they can really get out of therapy. So my message to all Ugandans is not to keep people with disabilities in homes. If you get a disability, you happen to get a disability, seek for medical attention. Look for the required professionals to work with you. We don't work alone in this sector. We work with the physiotherapists. We work with the speech and language pathologists. So look for these people, look for these services. Because when a person gets a disability and then they begin to receive consistent therapy, their lives begin to improve. They really start to near their independency. You look at a person after receiving therapy, they are able to transfer themselves to the toilet, and they do number one, number two, independently. They are able to transfer themselves around the house without needing any other person to do it for them. They are able to do simple activities for themselves. They can wash for themselves, they can feed themselves. Because when you look at some disabilities, they even can't, people with these disabilities can't feed themselves. So they really need therapy to improve their range of motion, their muscle power, and they begin to do different activities for themselves. Yes.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Segirinya Emmanuel, who is a therapist with Star Ministry Uganda. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, my viewer, thank you so very much. We've been looking at the role of therapy in improving the livelihoods of persons living with disabilities. Not to forget that Sunday, the 3rd of December, is International Day of Persons with Disabilities. And the main celebrations in Uganda are going to be in Mbara District under the theme, which is the role of innovation in disability inclusion. See you in the next hour. Ruben is set to give you all the sports updates. this morning. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Over 1,000 children with disabilities in Uganda every 5 years have not had access to adequate education, and this has been basically due to lack of